So for the people who couldn't make it, or if people show up late, we will be sending this out to all of the members that RSVP'd. So you'll get that in a couple of days. And also, if you all have any questions, there's a little question and answer portion at the top right hand. If you just float those in there or upvote questions that you see are good and that you would like answered as well, I'll float them to either myself or Ashely throughout the presentation and answer those for you, okay? And then also in the general, where I see some of you guys are already talking, you guys can say hello, you guys can @ people if you guys just want to say hello and things like that, or if you're having any other troubles hearing anybody or anything like that, and I'll help you throughout the presentation, okay? All right, so I'm gonna get started. Ashely should be here in a second. Sorry about that. Sorry, just troubleshooting some stuff, guys. You know, technology sometimes is a little much. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us, though. We should be getting going in 1 second. I'm just trying to make sure she's here. All right. All right, so hopefully she'll be here in a second, but I'll keep going. All right. So the agenda for today is we'll introduce ourselves when Ashely does get here. And then we'll also just talk about, there she is. We'll also talk about how Trusted is different, and hey Ash, and how Trusted works in a few easy steps so you guys can get that. We'll talk about your care and support team, and then the part that everyone wants is the Q&A. All right, so if you guys will put in the chat, have you traveled before? I know I saw some newbies in here. I hope to see some veterans as well to learn about a little bit more about Trusted, but just drop it in the chat if you guys are traveling. All right, so I'm Britt. As I said, I'm the community manager here at Trusted. I was a nurse, or am a nurse, sorry. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for like 8 years, and I traveled for 4.5 to 5. I've worked in the PICU, the CVICU, palliative hospice care, as well as I just finished my assignment in the COVID ICU. So most of these questions we've experienced ourselves, so we'll be sure to get you guys going here, okay?
And I'm Ashely. I'm a nurse advocate here at Trusted. I've been in this role for a little over 2 years now. My nursing background is in the neonatal ICU. I've got 8 years total, 2.5 traveling, and I still work per diem every now and then at the Children's Hospital here in Denver. So that's me. Like Britt said, we've experienced a lot of this stuff firsthand, and now I'm seeing a lot of it from the other side. So
we're gonna get you guys covered so you guys can be travelers like us, okay? It's the best decision I ever made, just to let you guys know. All right, so how is Trusted different? Trusted is different because we're all about transparency and trust. We have upfront pay packages, so you guys don't have to guess, you know, can I get this extra money here, or let me take some away from there. It's all upfront on our matches. So there's no surprises later, and you guys are upfront with everything. We're also nurse-led, as both of us have said. We're both nurses, and as well as most of the nurse advocate team and the care coordinators are also nurses too. Some people also all throughout the company are nurses. So we're, I think, 20% nurses in Trusted. So that's how we're also different from other companies. So we get it, we understand. Like we said, we've traveled before. So most of the things that you guys are going through, somebody at our company has been through before. We do not have recruiters. We do have nurse advocates, which is what Ashely does. And we're measured on your happiness, not if you guys sign an assignment or anything like that. So we're not tied to those numbers. We just want to make sure that you're happy and that you have the best assignment and that the decision is yours to make. And then we also offer peace of mind. We have day one health and wellness benefits. So that includes health and vision, as well as we have the Modern Nurse Facebook group. If you guys want to join that, I will happily accept you guys. We're all friends now. And it's our 10K online nurse platform. So you guys can ask questions in there. If you didn't get them all answered here, we're all there to just help you guys out in there as well. As well as you all have a care team when you all sign a contract with us to help feel supported throughout your assignment.
So now we're going to run through how Trusted works, just high level overview. So step one is going to be creating your profile. So that is what it looks like on our mobile, like the mobile website. Once you log in, you're going to see a dashboard checklist, we call it, and that's going to be kind of your cue as to what you need to complete your profile. You don't need to complete it all the way in order to view matches, but if you want to get submitted, that's everything that we need. We recommend doing so at your earliest convenience if you want to travel, especially. If you're not sure when you want to travel, you can fill everything out. It'll serve as just kind of a storage unit for all of your credentials and whatnot. That I do like to point out is if you're interested in traveling, make sure that you get your references prioritized. That's the one piece of this whole thing that you're relying on somebody else to complete. And the last thing you want to do is find that perfect job and not be able to be submitted for it because we don't have references. So once you've made the decision to make the leap, definitely get working on your references as soon as you can. Step two in the process is to go through your matches. Like I said, your profile doesn't have to be complete in order to view them. So you can take a peek at what's out there if you're just curious. This is an example of one of our match pages. As you can see, we include the unit, the hospital, the shift, all of the pay breakdown, and really we try to just give you all that information up front so you're not waiting on me to give you details about these facilities. If you're interested in it, you can click that favorite button. It'll store it in a list as long as the job is open. If you know you for sure want to apply, you can click request interview, and if it's not for you, you can just pass on it altogether. Once your profile is complete and you're starting to request interviews, we call this your job search. So when your search is opened, your nurse advocate is always going to reach out, let you know that your profile looks good, or let you know if we need anything additional from you. A couple of things I like to point out just with regards to our team. We are spread across the country, but our typical workday is 9 to 5 in our own respective time zone. So that might vary a little bit based on where your nurse advocate is located. We aren't working on evenings and weekends, but we do have a group of people on our care team who is monitoring our online chat and our main. So if you reach out on an evening or a weekend, you should be able to get in touch with somebody. If it's something urgent, I would always recommend calling. If you're not getting a response, text us too. Most of us are in our like 20s and 30s. We're your standard millennials. Texting is probably going to be the quickest way to get in touch, but we can answer phone calls, send emails, whatever works for you. And then just know that we might be a little delayed in reaching out to let you know that we got you submitted, just because we do have teams working after hours to do the submittals. But our priority is always going to be to do the actual submittal and then let you know. But we will always reach out if we're missing anything. Once we find you that perfect contract, get it signed and everything in motion, we kick into onboarding. Anybody who has traveled and probably anybody who has talked to a traveler knows that onboarding is likely the most painful part of the entire process. But we've got an awesome team of compliance specialists who is working to make it as minimally painful as possible. One thing that you can do to help make this process go a little quicker and smoother is uploading any health documents that you have already to your profile as soon as you're ready to start traveling. This likely includes, if you're a first-time traveler, just any immunization records, if you've had a TB test recently, if you've had a fit test recently. But generally speaking, all facilities are going to require what's listed in that little box with the background check, drug screen, and all of that. Any documentation that you already have that meets the requirements of the facility we'll use, and then we'll send you for whatever else we need along with your drug screen. So don't stress if you don't have it. We got you taken care of. And then just I would like to throw out there is, in light of COVID, we are starting to see more facilities that are requiring a COVID vaccine. So if you have been vaccinated, I would definitely add that vaccine card to your profile along with the dates, just so that we know you've been vaccinated for those facilities that are requiring it.
And also, another question that we get oftentimes is, do we pay for drug screens and things like that? And that is a yes. If it is required for your, or we don't, sorry.
Oh, I thought you said, when you said we pay for it, I was interpreting
No,
it as like, does the nurse pay for it?
no. We, as in the company, we as in Trusted pay for, if you have any need to drug screens or titers or anything like that, if it's required for your assignment, we do pay for it. I just want to let you know.
Yeah, there's a couple of edge cases where like nurses have had to go get a new mask to provide for their fit testing, or they have to go get like an immunization that isn't available at the clinic. And so in those cases, if you were to have to pay for that, we would reimburse you. And then once you are on assignment, we have a great support system in place for you. We call them our care team, and that kind of encompasses everybody at Trusted, but there is a timekeeping app. There's lots of help questions that we're happy to run through with you. And then you'll also work closely with a couple of individuals, number one being a team, not an individual, but they're called our care team. They have a wealth of knowledge, whether it's basic questions about how do I complete my time card, how do I enroll my benefits, I want to extend my contract. And then you've also got a clinical success partner. And as Britt mentioned, our clinical success partners are all nurses as well. Most of them also traveled. So they are, if you are running into any issues, you feel unsafe, you've got concerns, or on the other side of the spectrum, if you're loving it and want to extend, they'll help get the ball rolling on that side of things too.
So this is the team that's going to support you guys. I know that a lot of people ask about like, how am I going to be supported on my assignment if I don't have a recruiter, etc. We have all this covered. Do not feel that you're not going to be supported and someone is not going to be there for you, because we always do. Okay.
And I am biased, but I think we've like one-upped the level of support over a recruiter, because like I said, you're always going to have another clinician, another nurse, somebody who's been in your shoes, knows what nursing is like, knows what traveling is like. So if it's a terrible shift and you need to vent, give them a call. I've taken those calls from nurses before too, and I've made those calls as a traveler, and I never worked with Trusted as a traveler, so I don't know what it's like to call a nurse in those situations, but I imagine that it would be a better experience than I had calling somebody who just didn't get it. And this is just a little bit more about the care team. So there's nurse advocate, onboarding specialists. We've got our clinical success team, our care team, really just kind of our equivalent of an interdisciplinary team that's here to make sure that you succeed. And the care team can be reached at that mainline phone number that's posted on here. That's the number you'll find on our website. And our help center, as I mentioned, has a ton of information, everything from getting your profile set up to time card questions, benefits questions. There's a lot of stuff there.
And someone asked in the chat too, how can you talk to someone? It's right here if you need it, okay? All right, so we'll jump into the question and answer portion. Thank you guys for jotting those down. Are there any short-term contracts?
So the shortest contracts that we work with are 4 weeks. I would say most common is going to be that 8 to 13 week range. We do sometimes see a little bit shorter. We do sometimes see a little bit longer, but generally speaking, 13 is the standard. And if it's not 13, it's probably 8.
And then also in light of the contract portion of this, we also do offer contracts in a lot of different specialties and a lot of different places. We've had people do immunizations and COVID checks in HBO. We have people in clinics and all specialties and areas. So don't feel that you're just limited or that, oh, I can't find this. We'll help you find something, okay?
We actually, I think, sent a nurse to work on like a Navy ship too. So there's like some random stuff that comes up, but if you're adventurous,
we got you. Do all facilities require COVID vaccine as a mandatory requirement?
No, most facilities do not. We are starting to see more of them require it. I would say generally those facilities are like the bigger health systems, the academic health systems. They're starting to require it more. Most of the time they want you to be fully vaccinated before you start. And a lot of them are giving deadlines of September, but generally if it is a hard stop for them, we know that ahead of time. We'll reach your vaccine information entered into your profile. And if it's a situation where they require it and you don't want to or can't get the vaccine, we can work through it that way, whether it's passing on that job or just seeing what exemption options they offer.
We are currently limited on our NP positions, correct?
We don't place NPs right now.
We don't have any. Yeah. Okay. That was a question that was asked, and I thought. How far away from a contract do we have to live to still qualify for the stipends for meal and housing?
That is honestly my favorite question. I don't have a good answer for it. So basically, overall, in order to qualify for stipends, you need to meet the IRS requirements for having a tax home. There are 3 of them that are clearly laid out. There is no specific radius. That's a big myth. It's something that a lot of recruiters, a lot of other nurses will tell you, but there's no defined radius based on the IRS guidelines. With that being said, it gets a little bit tricky, and I'm going to be upfront with you because we are not tax professionals. We can't advise on that. So there will be certain facilities that you'll run into that will only allow travelers outside of a certain radius, or if you're inside a certain radius, they consider you to be a local. But aside from that, we leave that determination up to you. So we've got a couple of articles on what's a tax home, kind of those taxi questions. And then there's also great resources out there on the internet. But ultimately, if you're not sure what would qualify you, my best advice is to talk to your tax professional, just because they can speak to your individual situation.
There's also a site called Travel Tax. He's a really good resource that majority of the travel nurses I know have used. It's a great resource for blogs, and you can also reach out for a consultation and things like that if you are thinking about trying to do your taxes, because I know that's a huge hotbed topic that everyone gets freaked out about. So yeah, just look that up as well.
I'm personally scared of the IRS. I don't want to get in trouble with them, so I'm always going to err on the side of caution with tax questions. But I did use Travel Tax as a resource when I was traveling. And I believe that guy, he either traveled as an RT or an RN, I can't remember which, but he's got both sides of the equation covered.
So he understands it. I think we already answered this question about if we have medical experience. We're all nurses mainly. We do also have a NP. Or an NP now. Yeah. So yeah, we have a lot of medical professionals on our staff. Oh, this is a good question. Is there somewhere that we can see the benefits and their costs?
Yes. Best bet is to reach out to our team, either text your nurse advocate, you can text that main line, or you can reach out through the online chat. But we do have all of that benefits info available and can send it to you. I know that there are 4 different plans. Everything is under Aetna, except for, I think there's a Kaiser option if you're in Hawaii only. And all of those are available to you on day 1 of your contract. There's plans available both for you and a partner, or you and dependents, if that's your situation.
We do reimburse for fingerprinting and license applications. What I will do for you guys, also, Ashley's going to speak more to this. I will, when I email you all, I will link you to the actual licensure help that we have on our blog. I'll make sure and link some of these articles and things like that, so you guys can have them for the common questions, because yes, we do.
Yeah. So
we can get into licensure now.
Yeah, anything that you're needing to do to get that license, we would reimburse for. The one caveat is that we will only reimburse if it's your first time getting the license, so not renewals, and if the license became active within 90 days of you starting an assignment. So just keep that time frame in mind. A lot of nurses are interested in getting a California license. That one's a little tricky to say if it'll get reimbursed or not, just because of the timeline. So.
What payroll system is used, and is pay weekly or bi-weekly?
We pay weekly on Fridays, starting with the second Friday of your assignment. Pay system is a little bit of a tricky question. So for payroll purposes, we always go based off of the time that's entered in our app that every nurse will download. That being said, facilities will sometimes have different requirements. They might make you have a paper time card that gets signed by your manager. They might have you log your time on Kronos. So it's going to be just dependent on where you're working.
what health documents are typically needed? And yes, to answer this question, you can go ahead and get as much done as you can. We always push for that.
Yeah, so kind of the standard for any assignment is going to be a physical within the last year, a fit test within the last year, a TB test usually also within the last year. Most are going to require some form of documentation for Hep B, MMR, and varicella, either titers, proof of disease, or immunizations. Usually a Tdap within 5 or 10 years, depending on the facility. And then drug and background screen, which we'll set you up with.
If on an assignment in ICU and we're constantly getting 3 to 4 patients, how do you guys proceed if I feel my license is in jeopardy?
So our belief company-wide is that there is no assignment that's worth risking your license for. So if you're running into issues where you feel like your personal safety, the safety of your license, or the safety of your patients is at risk, we definitely want to know about it. Your first point of escalation is always going to be your charge nurse. There's only so much that we as a company can do when we're not on the floor with you. And so we want to empower you to be your own advocate. And if you feel an assignment is unsafe, absolutely speak up. Do what you can to work with the charge nurse to make sure that that shift is going to go okay. And then on the back end, if this is something that's consistent that's happening, definitely let us know. We'll escalate with our contacts and see what kind of good solution we can come up with. But my best advice is always do as much as you can. We will step in as much as much as we can and as much as is needed. But nothing is more powerful than you who are actually there firsthand experiencing it.
Is Trusted like other agencies or the advocates get commission from our pay packages?
We do not, which is honestly like great on my end because I am not a salesperson. So you're not going to find us sending you like 1,000 jobs a day, wanting you to apply for them. I'm not going to be sitting here being super pushy on you taking a job unless we've got a firm deadline that I'm trying to communicate to you. We are really here to make sure that you're getting a job that you're excited about, that's a good fit for you. I don't care about you getting a job. I care about you getting the right job. So no commission on our end. And ultimately that benefits you guys in the end because I'm going to shamelessly say our pay packages are way better than most of our competitors.
Oh, shameless plug, but that's fine. That's what we're here for, right? Also, just so you know, we always like to mention this, but I sometimes forget. Neither Ashely nor I worked with Trusted before we actually worked for Trusted. So any of these questions are acceptable and fine. I worked with probably 7 or 8 different companies. So yeah, and now we work for Trusted. So we know it from this side. So we're going to be open and honest, but we also do love Trusted still.
There's definitely a heavy bias here, but we've got a lot of experience between the two of us.
Yeah. How are references contacted and how much time between accepting assignments? Oh, wait, just answer the first one. Sorry. How often are references contacted?
Yeah, so references are only going to be contacted when you request it. They're either sent a text message or an email, depending on what you select when you input that. We also have just a blank reference form that we can send you if you prefer to just take it to a charge nurse or a manager in person. And while we're on the topic of references, you'll see on our website, we recommend getting 1 charge nurse and 1 manager. We run into several different health systems and partners that are going to require a supervisor or above. And they won't consider a charge nurse a supervisor. So I always encourage nurses, if there are 2 people like above, I don't like to use that phrasing, but if there are a couple people above charge nurses that you can get references from, that's what I would shoot for. But having at least 1 manager and then a charge nurse is probably going to cover you in most situations.
How much time between accepting an assignment and starting?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ultimately, it's just going to depend on the facility and what their requirements are. Right now, I would say most of our start dates that we're signing for currently are looking at like late August, which is a little bit longer than usual. Our team is growing and we're improving a bunch of processes. So we're hoping hoping to shorten that up as time progresses. But right now, that's kind of the timeline we're looking at. I know most people are asking that question because they're concerned about being able to give their 2 or 4 week notice at their current job. And there should always be, even if we're onboarding quicker than we ever have, there should always be that 2 to 4 week time frame that you need, if that's the basis behind your question.
We do work with HCA facilities to answer that question. So do you know anything about like the PA law passing in implementation?
I don't know a lot about it, but I know that they have started getting legislation in the works to go compact. That legislation is not yet active though. So our team is paying close attention and keeping up to date on that process as it moves through. I can tell you that there are some states that are not compact until everything is active and then they're fully compact. And then there's other states, New Jersey's one that I can name offhand, where they're still in the process of putting all of their legislation into place, but they're accepting compact licenses to work in New Jersey. They just aren't considering any New Jersey licenses to be compact, if that makes sense. Kind of like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square.
Do you know much about the processing from someone coming from Turkey?
Honestly, no.
What I'll do to you, Miriam, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I will reach out to you from your email, and we can talk and discuss like all the questions you have, and I'll get back to you. Okay. I won't forget. Okay.
Yeah. A couple of things I can speak to. There are certain visas that we help with and others that we don't. Our HR team knows those details. And then there are certain facilities that are going to require that your nursing school is accredited by either the AA or CCNE, I believe. And a lot of international schools do not fall under that. So that might be like the only barrier, so to speak, but your nursing experience from other countries is definitely still valid here.
So I will definitely connect you so we can get all your questions answered. Can you explain the pay breakdown for an assignment?
Yeah. So there are essentially 2 buckets of your pay package. The first is going to be your stipends, which are not taxable. You get a stipend both for housing, and then the other stipend is for meals and incidentals. So incidentals includes like parking, that's that we bring up, but anything related to your assignment or related to being away from home for your assignment. For the stipends, I never kept track of like exactly how much I was spending on what. I don't know if you did, Britt, like for tax purposes, but you're paid the stipends as well as your weekly wages, which is that taxable portion of your paycheck. That's going to be your hourly rate. And then, any overtime as you work that. With that being said, those 2 buckets are combined into one for your paycheck. So on every pay stub, you're going to see the breakdown of what's taxed and what's not, but you're not going to get 2 different paychecks for that.
Same.
And then,
process.
While we're on the topic, we do have local pay packages as well. As I mentioned, our locals do not qualify for stipends. And so there's a few differences that you'll find with our local versus travel contracts. The biggest difference is going to be that there aren't any stipends. That money is allocated to you all within the taxable rate. The second piece I like to mention is that often facilities have a different rate that they're offering for locals versus travelers. It's typically lower. So if you're interested in taking a contract that's close to home, just check in with your nurse advocate, let them know that you would be a local, and then ask them if they can tell you what that pay package would look like, just so you can get an idea. And then differences as far as terms and conditions exist there too. So again, if you're looking at taking a contract as a local, chat with your nurse advocate to make sure that A, it's a possibility, and B, you're understanding what those differences are.
Someone asked about house and meal stipends.
What about them?
Are the house and meal stipends in addition to the gross weekly income listed under each job posting?
So the gross weekly is going to be that entire pay package all in one. So that will include both the weekly as well as the meals and incidentals. And on each match page, it's going to break down each part of it. So it'll show you exactly how much of that gross weekly is taxable and exactly how much of it is non-taxed.
So there's two questions about traveling as a team or with friends. Yes, if you guys have friends, the more the merrier. Just let us know that you're actually traveling with said friend so we can actually try to make sure everything goes well and you're paired together in the same areas and things like that, so we can make special considerations for that. As far as the housing goes, we do not offer housing, but Ashely and I are both pretty proficient in house finding, so we suggest Furnish Finders. There's also the Gypsy Nurse for housing pages, as well as there are also a lot of travel nurse specific housing pages for the locations. For example, there's one in San Francisco, there's one in Seattle, various areas. So there's those are the main ones, and then also Airbnb, which is like kind of typical. Those are the top hitters, right? Did I miss any?
Yeah, so those, like the Gypsy Nurse housing page and the specific city travel pages that Britt was talking about, are on Facebook. But a wealth of options. And then one thing that we always talk about every week when we do office hours is the fact that everything is negotiable. So if you're looking on Airbnb, best advice is reach out to the host if it's something that looks like it would be a good fit. Often if you say, hey, I'm going to be here for 13 weeks, I'm a travel nurse, this is the budget I'm working with, there is some wiggle room there, because there's a lot of benefits for them having like that guaranteed income for 13 weeks.
And also, just a pro tip is look for the cost of living in that area as well before you try to negotiate, just because you'll know kind of like what things are running. Obviously, we'll be getting furnished housing, but you can still have that price point in mind, because if you're coming from, for example, I came from North Carolina, I knew housing was going to be expensive in San Francisco and New York, but I didn't know how expensive. So that also helps with your negotiation skills too, to actually look at the cost of living in an area. And we actually have that on our app under the hospital areas and locations. Under our site, we actually have like what the cost of living breakdown is. Do you cover us if a contract is canceled and we've already traveled to the location, and do you cover call-offs?
So if a contract is canceled, we'll address that piece of it first. So ultimately in travel nursing, every contract is considered at-will employment, which means that either party, the nurse or the facility, can cancel the contract at any time for any reason. Typically what we're seeing is facilities are trying to give as much notice as possible if they're looking to cancel you. We are not seeing near the level of cancellations that we were this time last year. So really it's not a super common thing. They're trying to avoid it. They're hiring conservatively in order to do so. So although it is always a possibility, rest assured, we do not see it super frequently. With covering that piece of it, most of the time, no. Unfortunately, because it is at-will employment, that's just one of the inherent risks of travel nursing. What we will do, though, is we're always going to prioritize getting you submitted to another good fit assignment and making sure we're expediting those submittals and get you started at a different assignment as soon as we can. So hopefully not something you're going to have to deal with. Like I said, not something we're seeing super frequently at this point in time, but we're here to work with you and get creative if that situation does come up. For the call off policy, a couple of pieces here. Number one, if the facility has a specific policy in place, we always honor that. So the most common policies that we see are like they can cancel 1 shift every 4 weeks. They can cancel 2 or 3 shifts every 13 weeks. I would say those are kind of our typical culprits. So in those cases, as long as you're willing and able to work, if you get canceled, you are going to be eligible for your stipends always. And then the hourly rate is just going to be according to their cancellation policy. So if they can cancel you for 2 shifts, for those first 2 shifts you canceled, you'll get your stipend, but not your hourly. If you're canceled beyond that, you'll get both. There's a couple of exceptions to that rule, which we've got outlined in our policy, and our nurse advocate team is going to run through that stuff with you at the time of the offer. And then one of the differences, like I mentioned, there's differences in terms and conditions with our local contracts versus our travel contracts. Our local contracts don't actually offer guaranteed hours. So if you get canceled as a local, you won't be compensated for that missed shift.
For one of the questions, yes, we have a lot of people we have an actual NA who travels with his family in an RV, actually a couple too, yeah. And then we also have most people travel with pets. Ashely had dogs. So yes, you can travel with pets and families. We actually do have a couple of events prior to this, and I can link them for you about traveling with families. Kelsey did a presentation on traveling with her 2 boys, and she homeschooled, and they traveled in an RV. So I'll send that and I'll link that for you, okay? So for this job offers app question, Shelby, it's saying that job offers on her app are for RNs, but they're popping up as LPN.
Interesting. If you're running into those, definitely let our team know. Like, send a screenshot is the most helpful thing, because that could just be an issue with how the job was sent to us and then posted on our website. So definitely let us know if you're running into that.
And we can always troubleshoot and fix it and figure it out for you, okay? So just reach out to us and we'll be sure to help you, okay? If planning to travel in January, how soon or many months prior to an assignment?
So generally speaking, we're going to see those jobs getting posted like 6 to 8 weeks out. That's kind of our sweet spot. With that being said, if you're looking at January, we honestly will probably start seeing January start or October getting posted, just because people really like to get things lined up for the holidays. I would say a lot of travel nurses take the holidays off, so a bunch of them are looking for those early January starts, and a lot of hospitals are looking to get that locked in early fall. So 2 things: 1, keep your eye on your matches, and 2, make sure that your available start date on your profile is updated with what you're looking at, and then when we start to see those start dates roll in, you'll get those included in your matches.
We do have assignments in all 50 states. To answer your question, would a team leader be considered a manager?
I don't know what a team leader means at your facility. I would say if their role is specifically as a charge nurse for that shift, no. If their role is a charge nurse, but they're also involved in some administrative stuff, or I say charge nurse with like extra responsibilities, then they could be considered a supervisor.
So for these scheduling questions, 1, we always like to tell you when you have your interview to discuss that with the manager. And if you need, time off for clinicals or something like that, definitely let our team know. But also when you talk and discuss it with the manager on your interview, you should definitely let them know, so then you can work with them as well, because they're going to be the ones that allow whatever scheduling you need and approve that. It won't be us directly from Trusted. And then also with the block scheduling question, that's the same answer of you'll have to ask your actual unit, because it can change from unit to unit. On certain units, I actually did have block scheduling and I was able to do whatever I wanted. And then other units, it was just kind of like, oh, you get what you get. So that's definitely a question for the actual unit and the manager, okay?
And pay attention too on our match pages. There are some facilities that just flat out won't allow travelers to request block scheduling. So if that's a deal breaker for you, just make sure you're reading those job descriptions. 2 things to add as well. When you're requesting the interview, there's a little pop-out page that's going to ask you a few questions. One of them is going to be for any time off requests. Always, 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 if you know about them, include them in your submittal or your job request with us. A lot of times we're not able to ask for additional time off once you've been submitted and have an offer. So always make sure you include time off that you would need during the assignment if you know about it. And then the other area requests. So if you're needing block scheduling, if you need Tuesdays off for clinicals, that sort of thing, pop that into the special requests and we'll include that on your submittal as well.
We do offer referral bonuses. They're $1,000. So bring all your friends.
And that applies even if you have not taken a contract with us. So if you're sitting here, think it sounds cool, you don't feel like traveling, but your best friend does, send your best friend our way using your referral link, have her tell us that you referred her, and when she hits 400 working hours, which is usually towards the end of their first assignment, then you become eligible for the bonus or the referral bonus, without ever having taken a travel assignment. So
are there crisis rates now?
not really, to be perfectly honest with you. Summer is usually kind of the down season for travelers anyways. So I would expect we'll see rates go up again in the fall. But right now there's been some like high dollar pay packages and some crisis rates. But overall, not a ton at the moment.
Do we pay for travel to and from assignments?
We do not. So there's a few things that we don't reimburse for that a lot of companies do. Travel to and from your assignment being one, and then time spent on modules that are due before your assignment being the other big culprit. And I bring these both up because I like to explain our rationale. It makes me happy. So a lot of the time, or most of the time, that money has been in your pay package and it's being pulled from your pay package, renamed essentially for marketing purposes, and back to you as these one-time reimbursements. At Trusted, we feel as though this is not a one-size-fits-all number. You might spend 0 time on modules. You might spend 12 hours on modules. And if you're a local, you're not traveling to that assignment, you might be traveling across the country. So there's just not a good way to decide what's fair to provide to nurses for these reimbursements. So rather than withholding money and earmarking it for something specific that you may or may not need to recoup later on, we just include it all in your pay package from the get-go to be paid over the course of your contracts rather than having it specified for one thing or another.
Since we're kind of on the money topic, can you talk about extension bonuses?
Yeah, so there are facilities that will offer extension bonuses, but that's the same kind of rationale as I just went through. We'll always pass that along to you if that's something the facility is offering. Sometimes facilities are willing to honor higher rates for your extension, but ultimately our goal is to be as upfront and transparent as possible and to give you as much money as we can as possible from the get-go without you having to negotiate that. So definitely worth asking at the time of an extension, but unless it's being offered by the facility, it's not something that we're going to offer on our own.
Holidays, how are holidays compensated?
I believe time and a half, and we consider the holiday to be 7 p.m. the night before to 7 a.m. the day after. So if you're working a night shift on either side of the holiday or you're working a holiday day shift, of course, you will get that full 12 hours of holiday pay.
Is overtime anything beyond your contracted 312s or anything over 40 hours a week?
So that is also a little bit of a loaded question. There are a few states that consider overtime anything after 8 hours, California being one of them. So every shift, if you're working a 12, those last 4 hours are going to be overtime. For the purpose of our contracts, overtime is going to be according to the state and federal labor laws. So in most cases, 40 hours a week. If you have a 312s contract and you pick up an extra shift, those first 4 hours will be your regular rate. The last 8 hours will be your overtime rate. But then we also offer on our travel contracts what we refer to as our extra time bonus. And that's just kind of our way of saying thank you for helping out the facility when they need it. So that extra time bonus is going to apply to every hour beyond what you're contracted. So if you pick up a 12, you're contracted for 36, you're going to get that extra time bonus in addition to your regular rate or your overtime rate for all 12 of those hours.
What is considered a local contract?
Good question. So like I mentioned, there are some facilities that have a specific radius set. But a local contract essentially is going to be one where you don't qualify for those stipends. So again, kind of a crappy answer because I can't give you a hard and fast, yes, you're local, no, you're not. But if you take a peek at those guidelines from the IRS on what a tax home is, if you qualify for the stipends, it'll be a travel contract. If you don't qualify for the stipends, it'll be a local contract.
No, we do not have strike nurse contracts. Health Source Global and there's another one. I'm blanking on it. But look at Health Source Global and there's another one. I'll find it and let you know. But no.
If you do run into a situation where you're on contract and the hospital is striking, there are times when we've seen that strike pay extended to our travelers.
US
So
nursing, yes.
in the event that happens, chat with our team. We'll hook you up if we can.
US nursing was the other one. Thanks, Daniel. I knew it was another one. So someone's asking about their matches. I'm a mother baby nurse and I don't see too many matches for locations.
It could just be that there aren't a ton of matches in those locations, but you can reach out to our care team either at that mainline phone number or via the online chat, and they can work through and take a peek at what your match preferences are set at just to see if there's anything, like if there's a glitch in our system, or if the answer really is that there's just not a ton of matches available in the areas that you're looking.
We do work with LPNs. I'm still reading the rest of this question, but yes, we do. And congrats. And for this, who pays trusted employees? Like, do you mean us as in like Ashely and I, or you as in the nurses? Because if it's the nurses, we can answer that. We can answer both of them, but
I mean, I as an employee get paid by Trusted. I don't know all the logistics behind where exactly that comes from, but they do pay me.
Yeah.
As far as the nurses, the facility bill the facility and then we pay you. So they pay us and then we pay you.
And you are an employee of us. That's a common question that we also get a lot, is you are not an employee of the facility. You are a trusted employee. So that's where your W-2s and things like that will come from, okay? That was another question that actually somebody asked, W-2s. How long do you have to be gone from an HCA in order to work as a traveler?
I think it's a full year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That varies based on health system, but a lot of them are a full year.
Mm-hmm. Do we hire Canadian nurses?
We have. There are a couple of just like hiccups that we run into, especially if it's your first assignment. Those just being related to the fact that you don't have a social security number yet. But definitely something that we work with, something we run into. So you are not prohibited from applying by any means.
Someone asked about Epic charting. So actually, you can request any assignment, even if you have not had any other charting experience. When you get to the facility, they'll actually usually give you training on the actual systems that they used. So in traveling, I've probably used any and every system known to man. And they will give you the training on that when you get to the facility. So feel free to just apply for anything and just say that you have the Epic training. And then as you get more, you can update it to, you know, other things. Hopefully you never have to use some of the terrible ones though.
Yeah. There are some facilities that'll require experience with their, oh my gosh, charting system. I can't think of words right now. So we'll reach out to you just to confirm that you don't have that experience. And then like my condolences if you have to use Cerner, because it's not great.
Meditech is worse.
You're spoiled with only ever having had to use Epic. I was in the same boat.
Fourth and Prosper. No, we do not only work with HCA facilities. We work with all types of facilities.
HCA is massive though. So if it's something that I know HCA has a reputation and a lot of nurses don't like to work there. So if you're concerned about that, just ask us and we'll let you know if it's HCA or not.
Sorry, I'm looking at this other question. So for the New Yorker, or the person that's in New York, I actually, so I know this is going to sound crazy, but I Googled a lot of things because Airbnb is kind of expensive out there. So I actually Googled like a lot of different like housing markets because there's some like offline, off the beaten path type of housing. And I found like a cute little studio, like fully furnished and stuff. If I can find those websites from where I use, I will email you personally. I'm trying to think, are there any other luck that you can think of for New York?
I never went there, so I really haven't.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So you should definitely continue on. But I would say furnish finders, Airbnb, and then also just there is a New York gypsy nurse, New York travel nurse housing group. Also, there is one. I did use that one as well. But what we also like to err on the side of caution when looking for housing, make sure that you are not getting scammed. Make sure, because they are out there, even on these like off-branded websites. That's why we always go with the Airbnbs and the furnish finders and stuff, because they're reputable. But I have had luck with other ones, but just if you are looking on any other ones, just be careful, okay? We do not want anyone to get scammed. Yeah, I think these are, does anybody else have any more questions that I didn't answer? Oh, yes, to answer you, Sinette, I believe is your name. I'm so sorry if I butchered it, but yes, a full year. Yes. Actually, now I'm just reading it. So do we have to wait 1 year post working at an HCA facility to travel to an HCA facility?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but I just had to make sure. Yes, you do have to file in each state for tax purposes. Yes, you do.
To jump back to the HCA thing, once you've left your HCA job, be sure to follow up with HR and make sure that you were terminated in their system, because it's been a long time since I've run into this, but we have had nurses where like they're getting declined from taking these HCA jobs because they're still showing as active in that HR system when they've been gone for months or years. So just one thing to follow up on that note.
Yes, Marion. I hope that answered your question, and everyone else who asked about the HCA. And any of these questions that you have more questions on, like I said, we are here for your resource. That's why we host these things. So do not feel that you can't still reach out to us even after this event. If you have any more questions, we're here for you guys. We do not offer night and weekend differential.
Correct. If that's something that a facility is offering as part of their pay package, we'll definitely pass that along to you. But even when I was working as a traveler, I think of all of the assignments that I entertained, there was like one that offered night diff.
Yeah, I think that was the same for me. I only had like one, but most of the time your pay package is the pay package. Does Trusted have the ability to take out home state taxes and travel state taxes at the same time?
Yes. So when you're onboarding and setting up all of that stuff in ADP, just let our team know that you're wanting to do that. And like I am not the expert here, but HR knows what they're doing and how to direct. So we'll get you hooked up with the right people to get that set up.
I'm sorry, Mary Sue. I will look for it. I apologize. Yes, we work with LPNs. I'm an LPN and looking for those traveling LPN pop-ups. Does Trusted Health work with LPNs too? Yes. Is there something she should do on her profile maybe I'm not sure why they're not showing up.
I would reach out to our team either, like I said, via that mainline phone number or our online chat, just so they can look into your actual profile and see what specifically you might be running into, as opposed to me just guessing.
Yeah. And then also it just gives us an actual view into your thing and your specific thing. So then we don't have to guess. So yeah. And like I said, we're happy to help you guys. So do not feel that, just because we didn't answer it here that we're just going to be in like la la land. Oh, sorry guys. All of them are getting like fumbled into the comments. So I'm just like, a year of experience is required in the specialty that you're trying to travel in. That's what we we say. I personally had a year and 3 months in PICU before I started traveling. And I've seen people have a year too. Yeah. I know a lot of people say 2, but that's where we stand on that.
Yeah, definitely a year. And then there's going to be facilities that are stricter on more experience than that. So it'll just vary based on where you want to go, but definitely at least a year in your specialty.
Yeah. Do we work with school nurses?
Yes, we do see some school nurse positions. I will say they're not super common, but we have seen them and are happy to work with those if they come up.
And home health as well.
Yes.
I saw that answer.
Home health is definitely more common.
Thanks for jumping in the chat.
You're so welcome.
I think we might have answered everybody's questions. If you have any last minute ones and are still here holding on strong with us, you can just get those last minute ones in. But I also, before you guys, if you have any questions left, I just want to thank you all for coming and showing up. We appreciate you so much. When you get the email with our feedback, please fill it out. This helps us get better and just help you all more. So if you have any questions, concerns, or criticisms, please give them to us. We are happy to help you guys. So yeah, just reach out and I will get back to those people. The lady from Turkey, I will get back to you. And anyone else who I can't remember or was supposed to, you email me. My email is on the platform that you use to RSVP. So just fill out that survey, and then we will also be sending the recording out in a little bit if you missed it or lost connection or anything like that. So thank you all so much for showing up, and we appreciate you. I will send the, what was the number again? The helpline desk number? Do you know it?
Our main line?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's 415-466-1466.
There you go, guys. And I will be linking all the resources for you all as well, so you guys can get to those in the email, okay? I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for joining.
See you later, Britt.